scale of which this has happened and happening is terrifying to me, that it is so difficult to find anything about Amway. That should speak volumes to people.
But yeah, I think it's changing though. There's definitely more anti-MLM YouTubers talking about Amway now than we're doing it a year ago.
Yeah.
And I think Scott's played a role in that, because the more Scott argues with Marco or about Marco, the more people become interested in people like Dexter Yeager, which I think is a positive thing. It's interesting too. Did you know that Scott actually had a court battle with Amway?
You know, I didn't know. I kind of had like surface level knowledge about this, but I don't really know. I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's something I want to really investigate with Scott, is the fact that he actually took them on legally, which is why I'm so surprised that he's so reluctant to praise the people like Marco who are having current legal battles with these companies.
Yeah, and I don't understand why he doesn't see the similarities with other multi-level marketing companies. Like I hear, I'll hear him talk about how there's ones out there that are good, but he can never name one, because he could name one and then the next year it could be shut down for a pyramid scheme, and then there would go his credibility. Maybe that's part of it, but they can't name one mystical legitimate MLMs. Well, I'm different. I'm quirky. I'm not like the other girls. I'm not anti-MLM. I'm like pro MLM when it's done right. When is it done right? It can't be done right because the model itself is based on Amway, and it's the very company that fucked him over.
Yeah, all these new MLM companies, they've literally copied Amway. They're all just copying Amway. Everything they do is a direct copy of Amway.
Yeah. We've got more comments coming in here, so I'm going to read these. Beyond says, Behind the Bastards has an episode about the connection between U.S. police and the KKK. In that episode, they detail the early Klan. Episode, The History of American Police and the Ku Klux Klan. Honestly, the public-facing stuff for any MLM tool material stuff that does exist is patently insane on its face. The stuff speaks for itself. It does speak for itself, but yet there's still so many people that even when they leave multi-level marketing, they don't heal. And they still think, well, there's something wrong with me. I must have misunderstood the training. Like, I think that's why it's important to show the stuff as it is. But there's been so many people affected by multi-level marketing. There's got to be like some kind of commentary or pointing out why this is wrong. This is one of the things that I found really weird when I came out of like multi-level marketing. And I would see people explaining like obvious things. I had been out for a little while. I've only been out since the end of 2021, by the way. But people would be pointing out these things. And I'm like, that's so fucking obvious. Why do they have to point it out? Even though like forgetting that I needed to see those videos of people pointing these obvious things out, because my brain was so fucked. I needed someone to like hold my hand basically and say, this is emotional manipulation. If you talk about unaliving yourself and then like being abused and then trying to then put a call to action to have people reach out to you, and then you can start dripping on them to then try to recruit them, see if they'd be open to a possibility of taking a look at your business opportunity for Mon 8. That's emotional manipulation. I didn't learn that until I watched a video by Mac Attack. And I'm like, how the fuck did I miss that? Anyway, I went off there. I'll just finish up these comments so we can get back to our conversation here. John Q says, Dexter Yeager, allegedly a beer truck driver from Rome, New York, who was sponsored into the business, and he started the tapes, books, and systems tools business because it created immediate income. Beyond says, I was hoping to talk to Glenn at some point. I've mentioned this a lot, but my mom's family has deep ties to the DeVos and Van Andel families. David says, oh no, I'm late. And Beyond says, my mom told me a particularly upsetting story about Dan Van Andel engaged in some, oh my God, pretty sadistic animal cruelty. Oh my God, Beyond, that's horrible. John Q says, over the high expensive products people couldn't retail. And David says, the only way to do MLM right is to stay under the FTC's radar and not get caught, which is very easy because most MLM companies do that. Even if they are on their radar, the FTC doesn't even do anything anyway. All right, I caught up on my comments there, Glenn. Thank you for letting me read them here. Do you see them?
Yeah, I'm watching on another screen actually. Yeah.
Okay, good. If you ever want to respond to a particular comment, please go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Was it? So I heard you say someone wanted to speak to me. Who was that?
Yeah, Beyond says, I'll pull it up on the screen here. I was hoping to talk to Glenn at some point. I've mentioned this a lot, but my mom's family has deep ties to the DeVos and Van Andel families.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk with you either on the record or off the record. Either way would be fine.
There you go, Beyond. And David says, how bad you have to screw up to get caught by the FTC. No kidding. It's like success by health. How bad does that have to be?
The key to staying for MLM companies to stay legal is to donate enough money to the political parties. That's the key. If you donate enough money, you stay legal. It's that simple. The MLM companies that have been shut down are the ones that didn't donate enough money.
I learned something interesting about in Canada so the first one is that pyramid schemes, this pyramid selling is a criminal offense. And that to bring, I forget what this, now I'm like forgetting what I was going to say here, but like to bring, a criminal offense, it has to be shown that like first you violated like the Criminal Code of Canada. And then the second thing is that you did it with intent. And every multi-level marketing company that is operating everywhere, but like I'm in Canada, does that. They start their pyramid scheme company and they're doing it with intent. And yet nothing gets done. I've done videos, sent it to the Competition Bureau Canada, send other links to from other people's videos to Competition Bureau Canada. Nothing gets done.
Well, the bottom line is they know that 99% of people are going to lose money, but they don't care. I mean, how much more intent do you need than that?
Because the companies generate all this money, and then that's what they use. The DSA Canada, similarly to DSA in the States, we had this contingency go up to Parliament, like on the Hill. They're there and they're going to hobnob with members of Parliament for 3 days. And they say, look at our industry. This is such an amazing industry, this MLM industry. In Canada, it's over 80% of direct sellers are women. And they're like, this is how much money has generated. They don't show the statistics of over 99% losing. All they're showing is their own statistics, which are just screwed up. So then you have what's going on in the States where the DSA is going up on Capitol Hill, and they're like hobnobbing with various politicians, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to be showing all these statistics. Look at how much money this industry is generating. This is so amazing. All these jobs, all these projects, and they don't show that over 99% of people are losing. What are those figures? It's like all that money, that's the loss. Their money, like their statistics showing like what they're earning, that is the losses. That's the earnings. That's the earnings from the over 99%. It's just flipped right on its head.
It'd be like the gambling industry saying, well, all these this much money was won last year. There was this much money won from successful bets.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Beyond says he hangs out Beyond says hang out in Marco's Discord, same username. So there you go. If you wanted to connect with Beyond and chat about things you wanted.
So what is it? So it's Beyond.
Beyond, yeah.
Yep.
John Q says Dexter Yeager and Bill Britt were the true catalysts in building the system tools.
Oh, absolutely. They started it all. They absolutely started it all. And I think the reality is without the tool scam, because DeVos and Van Andel didn't think there was much in the tool scam. So if they hadn't have had this tool scam, they would have either needed to put more money into the plan. So the top IBOs will be making more money. So that they would have to have done that, put more money into the plan. And the other problem is it would have been a lot harder to keep people like my dad in for long periods of time who weren't making any money. I've got no doubt without that brainwashing material, there's no way known Dad would have stayed in for this long.
Yeah.
And I think that's why actually people in Amway are more devoted to it than people in other MLMs. It was interesting. My partner for a long time was like, yeah, I know she'd been in a few of the like Tupperware sort of MLM. She's like, yeah, I know they're misleading. I know they're a bit deceptive, but lots of companies are a bit deceptive. Lots of organizations exaggerate opportunities. Why is it that bad? And then I played her Dexter Yeager speaking. She's like, okay, this is different. This is next level. So you see what I mean? Like it's Yeager and Britt and these guys, they took it to a whole nother level where it wasn't just about making money. It was a whole way of life. It's about changing the person's identity,
that is still going on in these companies. And I kind of wonder if it's like on the periphery of the cult where you're not in as much, similarly to, how, so when you're presented initially with the opportunity and it's, it's not said it's Amway, it's, it's easy, it's going to be fun, you can just buy some products, it's not really that big a deal. Then the further in you get, the more it's revealed, because I've seen it with enough companies, and I know my own experience where it is crazy shit that is being coached and talked. Like it's wild. They're all like Dexter Yeager. It's like they all model themselves on him. They're all parroting his stuff, crazy stuff. And I don't know an MLM that is exempt from that, to be honest. I only think that it's like if you're on the periphery where you'll see people say, well, that wasn't my experience. I just was in and I like the products and then I stopped selling. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Like if you haven't seen it or you haven't been in enough, and it doesn't even mean to be that you were higher or at a bigger rank, that you just invested more money, because these courses and these conventions and these opportunities to connect with different uplines or cross lines, the same training is there. I honestly think it's the same. I do think that Amway is the mothership. It's for sure like the worst, but I don't think.
But there's a difference though. In Amway, it's still the Britt family and the Yeager family who make most of the money.
Right.
The newer MLM saw that and didn't allow that to happen.
Right.
So they've got more control over the tools. I think right. Amway, DeVos and Van Andel were both very critical of the Amway tool scam. Both tried to stop it, but they knew if they pulled the pin on Yeager and Britt, they would have taken their downlines to other companies who would have allowed them to run the tool scam. So they sort of became powerless to stop Yeager and Britt because, Britt and Yeager just had too much power. They knew that Amway almost couldn't survive without them. That's how much power they had in that. Because you've got to remember that every single person that was brought into Amway, one of the first things they were told to do was read this Dexter Yeager book, listen to this Dexter Yeager recording. So if Yeager came out and left Amway and said negative things about the company, a lot of those people would leave. So it just, to me, it got out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other, make no mistake, the other MLM companies have seen the way that Yeager and Britt got out of hand, and they just haven't allowed it to happen.
Right. It's like they've incorporated the tools. I don't know. I'm just fleshing this out for the first time because I'm trying to. So they've taken the tools, the idea of their own, and they've incorporated it into their companies instead of having it distinct. But the other weird part of this is that there's all these, it's like tools exist outside of each MLM as well that you can purchase.
Yeah, but the point is the new companies have control over what books are being shown and what tapes and what audio recording, who speaks at the functions. So they've got control over what's said and what's done and who profits. Whereas Yeager grew so quickly that it was literally became out of control before the Amway founders sensed a problem and they couldn't rein them in. It just happened too quickly for them. Right. So it was almost a situation where if we kick Yeager and Bill Britt out, then we're going to lose lots of Amway IBOs, which they couldn't afford to do. So they had to sort of allow them to have control of the tools.
It's so weird. It's such
the
a
newer
fucking
companies, the newer companies saw that and they've learned from that, and that's why you don't see any other MLM company with a crazy tool scam like Amway.
Right. It's so weird. John Q has some good comments here. Dexter Yeager and Bill Britt were the true. Okay, I already said that. Sorry. Yeager, Britt, DeVos, and Van Andel collective together knew that there was two different business models being operated together, the products and educational organizations. And Benjamin says stealing your soul. Yeah. That's what Robert Fitzpatrick talks about. That tracks.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the MLM companies, they're not quite as extreme as Amway. I see Amway is the more extreme one. Having said that, there definitely are some that are very, very extreme. But like, you know, your Tupperware, your Mary Kay's, it's sort of about party plans and it's about selling to people. In Amway, there's no.
But it's not though. It is an MLM. It's still as bad. It's because I think those two.
But they're also like trying to sell. You know, like you set up a party and you try and sell products. In Amway, there's no attempt to sell a product. My dad has never attempted to sell a product to anyone. Yeah. All he's ever attempted to do is to convince people that I can make you rich working part-time. They're at least attempting to sell a product. There's also an MLM aspect, or massive part of it is the MLM, I can make you rich, but Amway, that's all there is. There is no product selling.
Wow. It's just recruitment, eh?
It's, yeah. Just think, I know myself, I can't recall the last time when anyone came to my door trying to sell me anything. Direct selling just isn't a thing.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. It virtually doesn't exist. Yeah.
But yet you've got all these thousands of, you know, I think there's 91,000 Amway IBOs in Australia, and no one's ever been prospected and no one's ever tried to sell 99% of people in Australia a product. All they've ever experienced is people saying, I can make you rich. And you know what too, there'd be people in Australia who have been prospected by Amway and aren't aware of it, because they never prospect you saying it's Amway. They use some other term. So yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? There's all these people that have been prospected by Amway who aren't aware that they've been prospected by Amway.
They don't even know. Yeah.
They think it's, you know, e-commerce or, you know, all these sort of buzzwords. They're very good with the buzzwords.
Oh, there's your cat. That's awesome. Beyond has some comments here. I've seen a really insidious new kind of MLM that is a gambling MLM. It really seems to be modeled on loot boxes in video games. Look up bomb parties. Hannah Alonso did a deep dive on them. Those ones in particular seem to target Gen Z. And David G says there's an MLM for everything. If you can think of something that doesn't have an MLM, there's probably one and you just don't know it. Yeah. Benjamin says cryptocurrencies have their own casinos. And John Q says DeVos had to address some of the issues they had in a tape called Strictly Speaking, where the system tools and product retail selling were messing people up from making a profit in their business.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before. There was a showdown between, and that was shown in Scene Munger's history of the Amway tool scam. There was a massive showdown between the tool kingpins and the Amway owners. The Amway owners did not like what was happening, but they were literally unable to stop them because they just had too much power within Amway. I think, yeah, DeVos and Van Andel, they wanted a multi-level marketing company that actually tried to sell products, whereas Britt and Yeager were all about just convince people they can become rich, make them watch a lot of motivational material, and get them to buy Amway products. I think Amway, the more it evolved, the less it became about selling products. I think in the very beginning, it was a little bit about selling products. And then it evolved into something where there was just selling products weren't even a small part of it. It was just literally not a part of it at all.
I wonder though. Because they were with Nutrilite for 10 years. They took 5,000 of their downlines, start their own MLM. Do you think that they really were just focused on selling products? Do you like I
Well,
think
Nutrilite,
I really think they knew that this is all about recruitment and that it was never about selling products.
I think it used to be about both. They were doing that in an age where selling stuff door to door was common.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, originally it was a two-pronged attack. It was about selling stuff door to door, and then once you've got the person door to door to buy a product, you then convince them that I can make you a multimillionaire if you sell two. And then it's evolved into just prospecting and convincing people that you can make them rich. So it's gone from actual direct selling door to door to just convincing people you can make them wealthy if they sign up and if they buy Amway products and if they buy Amway motivational material. So it's sort of evolved into, I'd say it started off as direct selling and it's evolved into nothing even resembling direct selling.
Amway.
Yes, absolutely. Because, I mean, they even used to talk about that. They said, people don't tell them it's Amway because Amway used to be a door-to-door sales company. We're not that anymore. So they used to talk about it. In 2001, they used to say that Amway has evolved from a door-to-door sales company to e-commerce, to internet shopping. So they even said that themselves, that they'd evolved away from door-to-door selling. Where I think DeVos and Van Andel were more focused on keeping it more the way it was. But you know, Britt and Jaeger made that impossible.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I think that it was, they knew, like, just like Nutrilite, just like Holiday Magic, just like Costco. I think that it was always a pyramid scheme.
I'm not saying it wasn't. So I'm not saying it wasn't a pyramid scheme. I'm saying it was a pyramid scheme that also sold door to door.
Oh, okay.
So the vast majority of the revenue was coming from it being a pyramid scheme and it convincing people I can make you rich, but they were also selling door to door. And I think that's what the Amway founders sort of liked more, because when people thought of Amway, they didn't think it's a pyramid scheme. They thought they sell door to door. So right. The direct door to door selling was hiding it being a pyramid scheme. It was actually, I would say it was a very effective cover, because if some people sell door to door, you can then create this impression that Amway is all about selling door to door, when the reality is the business model is a pyramid scheme where you convince people that you can make them rich. All they have to do is buy this quota of Amway products each month.
Yeah, I remember reading part of that Merchants of Deception. He references that actually. Look, what you just said. It's like, oh, we're not just about selling products. We're not just about like going door to door. No, that's not what we do. That denial. Yeah. And
they certainly want the authorities to think that it was about selling products, not recruiting.
Yeah.
That's the point of it. Having some people selling door to door really was a very, very good cover for them.
David G has brought up a really good point. There's that direct selling scam called Smart Circle, where people actually go door to door or at supermarkets and they work for legit companies as third parties. That's like there's that thing, that Devil Core too. I haven't looked into that, but I've seen, that's like, I've heard of this, but this is, David, if you want, can you give us like some names of companies or some examples of what this is going on? I got to look into this because I don't really understand. Do you know anything about that, Glenn?
No, nothing at all. It's the first I've ever heard of that one.
Yeah, I was like starting to look into this. John Q says that's why Amway had to develop an arbitration agreement to protect themselves from being sued by dissatisfied distributors who were losing money from being involved with the system tools business. Amway's very complicated.
Yes, and they want to make it as complicated as possible. So that's all about, the pay structure is complicated. Everything about it is very, very complicated. and that's how they want it to be.
Yeah.
Because then people just think, oh, I must be missing something. I'm just not smart enough to understand it. I'm missing a secret to. That's why Jaeger became a millionaire, because he can see something that I can't see.
Yes.
When the reality is, it's actually very, very, very simple. You recruit people in, and they have to buy products. The company then makes humongous margins off these overpriced, high-margined, products. Your Jaegers and your Bill Britt types get rich selling the motivational material. So basically, your Amway Corporation is making huge amounts of money selling overpriced products with humongous margins. I think you'd struggle to find another company that sells their products at a higher margin. So Amway is making money from high margin products. You guys like Jaeger and Britt are making their money selling tools, which also works for Amway in that people think that they're making their money from selling products when they're actually making their money from the tools. So if there was no tools, they'd have to pay the top diamonds more money. And if they didn't pay the top diamonds more money, they wouldn't have the Ferraris and the bling to make people want to join. So it's sort of, it's complex, but once you look into it, it's actually very, very simple.
Yeah. It's just so heartbreaking to see so many people sucked into this, And it's when it just comes down to like what we've been saying from the very beginning, is over 99% of people have to lose. They have to lose. It's like it's not that you do lose. It's like when I was in, I thought it's because logic is turned upside down.